Hello and welcome back for another week in Gospel First. I'm your host, Joe Cirillo, and today our scripture focuses on Matthew chapter 24 and Mark chapter 12. It's about the window, the warning, and the end that begins again. Now, before we start our lesson, I want to ask you this. Have you ever felt like what you have to offer just isn't enough? Not enough time, not enough strength, not enough faith? I remember a season in my life when everything felt stretched thin. And I honestly wondered if God even noticed the small things I was trying to give. Then I read the story Jesus told, not with words, but by watching someone the world would overlook. And it changed everything. In Mark chapter 12, verse 41 to 44, Jesus watches people give at the temple. The wealthy give large amounts. It's visible and it's impressive. Then a poor widow comes. She put in 2 very small copper coins. Jesus said, "This poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others." Why? Because they gave out of abundance. Now she gave out of everything. I remember one Sunday when I was exhausted physically and mentally. I almost skipped helping someone that I had committed to serve that week. It didn't feel like much, just a small visit, a short conversation. But I went away. Later, that person told me, "I was praying someone would come today." That moment hit me hard. What felt small to me was everything to them. That's the widow's story. And maybe that's your story too. So let's begin. Now, right after this moment, Jesus shifts to something powerful in Matthew chapter 24. He begins teaching about the future, the end times, and his return. But here's the key. He doesn't start with fear. He starts with faithfulness. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 3, the disciples ask, "When will the temple be destroyed? What will be the sign of your coming?" And then Jesus answers both. One is near, and historically it was fulfilled in 70 AD. When the temple was destroyed, and one is in future, which is his second coming. Now, Jesus warns, watch out that no one deceives you. That's in verse 4. And he describes wars, famines, earthquakes, confusion. But then he says something critical. See to it that you are not alarmed in verse 6. Now, I remember watching the news during a particular chaotic time. Everything felt uncertain. Fear was everywhere. And I caught myself getting pulled into it, checking updates constantly, feeling more anxious by the hour. Then I paused and asked, am I spending more time listening to the world than to God? That question changed my direction. Peace didn't come from knowing everything. It came from trusting the one who already does. Now, Jesus reveals the future, not to scare us, but to steady us. He is saying, I've already seen this. And you can trust me. Now think of a movie where you already know the ending. Even when things get intense, you're not afraid because you know how it ends. That's what Jesus has given us here. The ending is not chaos. The ending is his return. So here's the question. Are you preparing for an event or becoming a person ready to meet him? Today, take whatever you have, even if it feels small, and give it fully. Because in the hands of Christ, small offerings become an eternal impact. That's it for today. Thank you for staying faithful to the journey. May the Spirit continue to fill your heart and draw you closer to Jesus Christ. If your heart feels even a gentle nudge, I invite you to subscribe and share so that we can spread the gospel of Jesus Christ together. And I'll see you next time as we continue our studies in Matthew chapter 25. Until then, God bless.